Hello, everyone, and welcome to Flickering Myth TV. My name is EJ Marino, and I have a whole host of awesome people with me today. I have Gerald James, Allen Christian. Thank you guys so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us. I'm glad I could finally join you two on one of these. It's a good time.
Gerald has long expressed to me his sadness that he's not on these with us more.
Well, I was waiting for the moment, and it couldn't be 90s wrestling, so I decided horror movies would be the best route to invite you into the club. Because, one, we've talked about enough stuff on the podcast, so you guys we're all on the podcast as well. I'll link it down below. I don't want to make Gerald ever talk about blockbusters again. So for him, I decided today we are diving into the best and worst horror remakes. We are in the ooky spooky season. It is upon us. There's a Spirit Halloween somewhere. I hope somewhere, some old Toys R Us is now a Spirit Halloween, and I love it. So yeah, I thought today was a good day to jump into these very fun topics. I want to start off by saying one of my favorite horror remakes, and see how you guys feel. Evil Dead 2013. How do we feel?
Didn't see it. That is a gap because I love Evil Dead and I've heard so much good about it. Yeah, I've missed it and I haven't rectified that yet.
And Gerald, where do you fall on it?
So you're not wrong. It is a good movie. It's a good horror movie. But I'll tell you my problem with it, and that's that it's a really good horror movie that loses the fun of Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. And the entire time I was watching, I was like, where's the punchlines? Where's the gags? And it never hit. And this was also around the same time that Drag Me to Hell came out. And Drag Me to Hell felt more like an Evil Dead film to me than Evil Dead. So it left a slight bad taste in my mouth, but I will agree. It was a great horror film, especially that ending sequence with the raining blood. And it's so good.
I think that's the most blood I have ever seen in a movie. Like, it literally, like, monsoons rain or blood. It's just insane. Like, I agree with you with it. I do like that there is a darker humor to it. It's bleak. It reminds me of Evil Dead 1, where there is humor in that film, but that first Evil Dead is a straight up horror movie. Like, the second one is a slapstick. Bruce Campbell's doing his best, like, Tex Avery cartoon BS there, and I love it so much. But that first one is pretty scary, and then Army of Darkness is Army of Darkness, and we all should love that movie because the skeletons are amazing. I love them so much as a kid.
I'm actually in I think the minority that likes Evil Dead 1 more than Evil Dead 2.
I like it a little bit more. I think they're the same movie to me. Much like they are the same movie.
But yeah, they are the same movie. But like, I just enjoy the roughness and the overuse of or the liberal use of claymation, which scares me to this day. It's just much bleaker. I don't know. I like it. It's more gritty. You can tell there's no money in it.
Yeah.
I like, and this will come up again, but I like horror movies that make you laugh enough just to really get at you whenever it gets back to scary again. And that's why I really like Evil Dead 2, because you're chuckling, and then you poop yourself.
That's fair. That's why I really like Texas Chainsaw Massacre too, because that movie never lets you get settled.
Chop Top is the greatest character in horror. Like, Bill Moseley is a saint. Bill Moseley, I wish, was on more of my list on this. He should have been in the Halloween remake, which I will save that. We'll talk about Halloween in a little bit. Alan, give me one of your picks real quick. What is a horror remake that you think is very good?
You know, I've talked about this elsewhere, but I actually really enjoy that. I don't know, was it 2007? Is late aughts there. They remade Last House on the Left.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually really enjoyed that remake. A lot of people, I think the criticism of it is just like it's it's not as brutal or unwatchable as the original Last House on the Left. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
And you know what's so funny is Wes Craven very much fills that Gerald need of making you uncomfortable and then making you laugh. That movie is very uncomfortable, though. Like, that is the darkest I think Wes Craven will ever get.
Oh, yeah.
I like that remake a little bit more because I do find it accessible. The older film has moments. I think the villainous killer people are more scary to me in the older one than the new one.
Oh yeah.
There's that moment after they like all like stab one of them. They're all just looking at each other like, we did that. We were those people. We are disgusting. And the newer one doesn't have that, but I find it to be a better made movie. Kind of the same thing with I Spit on Your Grave. Still not a great film, no matter what. Long, extended sexual assault scenes are not fun. But I do think some of the newer ones took out that 70s grit and made it a little bit more digestible. It's a good pick there. What about you, Gerald?
So this one, I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction because it's not necessarily a remake of an American horror film. But I loved, and I still will say that I love the Japanese version more, but the American version of that first Ring film. There was a good mix of not just the horror. Like, this had your unsettling horror with some of your jump scare horror. It had all of that, the tension, but also really good drama that came to the forefront. And it just, for me, it had all of the right notes. And even though it is a bit of a different beast from the Japanese one, where it's not as dramatic, but it still got me to a place where I was just like, that deserves to exist. And that's the most you can ask for with something like that.
Yeah, that's fair. That one I think gets swept under the rug a lot because it was the beginning of PG-13 horror, like especially like adapted from Japanese horror into American horror, and so I think it gets kind of brushed aside a lot, but it did what it did very well, I think.
I mean, so it has some cringy moments in R-rated movies. I mean, when that finger goes through the nail and the tape. One of the grossest things I've ever seen ever. And it's like a quick 10-second thing in a videotape that's not the real movie. And it creeps me out more than some of the R-rated movies on my list. So I definitely agree with you. I think that first Ring movie understands atmosphere so well. I don't know if it's that like Seattle, it's always like raining setting, or if it's just Naomi Watts being one of the best actresses to ever grace a horror movie. She's one of those people that I'm like, you're so much better than horror. Thank you. Thank you for blessing us with this. You know, we'll get like a Toni Collette, one of her, you know, one of those performances. I'm like, thank you for that. So good pick. I really like that. I am a fan of Japanese horror. That Ringu is not an easy viewing. I find the Ring to be much more digestible.
Yeah.
It's weird that that's a theme for us where we're just like, it's easier to watch, not as scary or whatever. but I think there's I think there's merit to that.
Well, which will go to a movie that I find to be far more inaccessible. This is a newer film, 2018's Suspiria. I love this movie. Tilda Swinton plays 3 people. One of them's a man. Dakota Johnson is in it. She's not the 50 Shades girl. She's much better than that. She reminds me of Pattinson, where I'm glad Dakota Johnson is starting to do like art movies where we're like, oh, she's better than her trashy book franchise that she was in. That Suspiria remake is so much more inaccessible, though. It's like a ballet movie where the other one is ballet, but the Goblin score's there, so it's that prog rock in the background. It's Argento, so it's all the colors and the stuff. This new one is a straight up art house movie that they somehow sold to like the A24 generation. And those A24 kids think they like art house movies until they get an art house movie, and then they're not gonna know what the hell to do. Like, I like Midsommar and Hereditary. Girl, those are like, let's dig deeper. You can get crazier. And Suspiria to me is one of those crazier ones. Have either one of you seen it? Original or this one?
I've seen neither, so
I've seen both. I don't have a whole lot to add to it other than yes, the new one. You're right. It's just the atmosphere yet again throughout the entire film. It is just so foreboding, and it's a huge downer, and I loved it because of that.
Yeah, sometimes I do like to be, like, I mean, my favorite horror movie is 2008's Martyrs, which is the most depressing movie I've ever seen in my entire life. It's just nihilistic. And I like that feeling because it made me feel something that's not, oh, I watched a movie. Trust me, we watch enough movies that you're like, I have seen 90 minutes of images with audio. Give me something more. And I think that's what I look for in this. Now, trying to change gears, we'll go to good ones later on. Is there a bad one that comes to mind for either one of you? Something that is just turn it off and get it away from me.
I'll jump in. Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's the first one on my list as well.
Oh my God, I hated that so much. And yet again, part of it is they forgot, and this is really weird to say because Freddy Krueger was the one horror villain that I was most afraid of as a kid. Because he had the look, he had the glove, he had, all of this. But whenever I went back and watched them as an adult, those were really fun movies. Like, that's not something you can say about a whole lot of horror. These were fun movies to watch. You had the quippy one-liners of Freddy. You had the most ridiculous situations like pulling a kid up and dragging their head into a TV screen or throwing a kid into a Mario Brothers ripoff. It's, there was fun there, and they were like, you know what? No fun allowed. Their updated Nightmare on Elm Street was just boring, and they relied too much. They didn't give you enough horror where it was important. They were like, you know what? We're going to introduce micro sleeps, and that's just so we can throw in jump scares to keep people remembering, oh, it's a scary film, guys. And they couldn't accomplish it in another way. And for me, that just drops it to the absolute bottom of the pile.
Without having seen that, it is one of the biggest disappointments to me, just because, like, whenever that was coming together, I was like, they got Jackie Earle Haley as, I was like, that's pretty good casting. I like that. And I'm just not the guy to rush out to the movie theaters for a horror movie typically. Like, I'll get around to it, but it's never like a weekend one, especially a remake, and I will just let people tell me how it was, and if people say it was good, I'll go see it. But I don't think that I've really been let down by a horror remake in recent memory anyway.
We're definitely out of the Platinum Dunes era, which, if you guys don't know, that was the Michael Bay company that was remaking all of the horror movies for a while. I don't mind the Texas Chainsaw one. I don't think it's as good as the original Texas Chainsaw. There's things I like about that one. It's 2003, Jessica Biel's in it. I thought that was a fine film. It does what it needs to do. It's nowhere near as good. Same thing with their Friday the 13th movie. Jason's my boy. I don't mind the Friday the 13th remake. It's like a condensed version of one of them. That's fine. That one, the Nightmare on Elm Street one, is just, it loses the soul. And like Gerald was saying, like, I don't need it to be exactly quippy one-liners because I like the Evil Dead for removing some of it, but that's all Freddy was. And once you take out the one thing we liked about that movie, now there's nothing. Where Evil Dead, I thought the gore was just as good as the comedy. So when you kind of focus more on the gore, I'm fine with that. But when all, to me, the Elm Street movies is comedy, you suck that out. And now I'm left with like, oh, that's an interesting dream sequence. That's like, in this new one, it's just a different saturation. That's how we could tell it's dreams, as opposed to back in the 80s where it was just like, they built sets and there was steam and I don't know, everything was upside down. This new one, it was just like, well, now we're in like sepia tone. Look at that. Now, so for me, I guess I would go down to one that's a recent one. I agree with you, Alan, that there's not a lot of recent remakes that are bad. I think we've shifted a lot, at least to good, except for Poltergeist. I saw that Poltergeist.
I forgot that happened.
I did not. I was there. I have like my Purple Heart for dealing with that movie. Like, it was so bad. Oh my goodness. And again, loses what made the original good. It has a very bad cast. I believe Sam Rockwell maybe is the lead. Not good. It's just something about that film just really lost me. Same thing with the Amityville Horror remake. Another one that I think lost it. And that's just because Ryan Reynolds was in it. And it was like fresh off Van Wilder. And I'm like, I don't need him to play James Brolin. Get this out of here.
Oh, yeah.
Different caliber of human there.
Anyone else? I did watch that one. I hated that. So
and the Amityville, that movie used to creep me the hell out as a kid. I don't know.
The
it's
original
like the glowing,
one is terrifying.
yeah, that glowing red eyes outside the window. I hated that as a kid. That remake lost a lot of it. So it's so funny that some of them keep and retain what we like, and then they work, or then sometimes they change it. We're like, fine. Then we get Amityville, Nightmare, and Poltergeist. You're like, what did you do to us? Is there another one that pops to mind for you guys, other than 13 Ghost, which I have written down because I forgot that was a remake?
Was that a remake?
Yeah, it's an old William Castle film.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I watched that as a kid.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know. I've heard about this, and probably like James Rolfe talked about it or something.
Well, there was an era of William Castle remakes in the 90s where it was 13 Ghost, The House on Haunted Hill, and we were almost there to get the Tingler or something, but they didn't. Tingler reference for you guys. Look up that movie, William Castle, The Gimmick King. Y'all think like James Cameron loves a gimmick. William Castle used to show up in a hearse. Like that's a gimmick legend there.
So yeah, where they did like the vibrational things in theater chairs.
Yep, there would be one. And then my favorite director, John Waters, says as a kid he used to go find the Tingler thing and just sit in the chair all day. So I was like, of course he did. Thank you, John Waters. Love you. So yeah, any ones that come to mind for you guys that you're like, get this out of here?
I'm not going to dive deep into it because it's taken its shots, but by God, that Paris Hilton House of Wax.
Oh yeah, that was bad.
Yeah,
that one I don't have the context for. I've never seen the original House of Wax, but that's awful.
Now I think that's one that could use a remake because the original House of Wax is those 50s horror movies that definitely needed to be fluffed up, like one of the best ones ever. We'll talk about a 50s horror movie that made it to the 80s that got fluffed and changed. House of Wax needed that. I can definitely see updating it. And I think the killer, the face stuff was interesting. They tried ideas, and I will say that Paris Hilton death is badass. I loved her sliding down that pole. It's like this weird, it's a good gory kill. I'll give them credit. They knew what you were getting in there. Like, we all bought a ticket to see Paris Hilton die in that movie. We all paid for it and got it, and it was fine. I hated that movie, though. It's one of the supernatural guys in there, and I don't really like him. The long-haired one, Pedaleski, I don't know. He's in it. Everyone wanted him to be Robin for a while. But yes, he is in it. It's not good. Thank you. It has taken its lashings, though. What about you, Alan? Any more on your list?
God, I think as negative as people might think I am, I think things that I don't like to this level just fall out of my brain. Unless I have a particular beef with something. No, I mean, other than we've already mentioned it, but that Psycho remake is.
Well, we didn't mention that on camera. That Psycho remake is offensive.
Yes.
And look, and I'll preface this by saying I'm not a Hitchcock mark. I respect Hitchcock. I'm not one of those like Psycho is the greatest film of all time. It's amazing. It's what it is. I'm not rewatching it, but like. You don't shot for shot remake him. Like that's one, the balls of Gus Van Sant to think he could. So applause for you for getting an Oscar nomination, being like, you know what I can do.
Yeah, Good Will Hunting, and so I can do this now.
Yeah,
which is like, I love Gus Van Sant. Like, My Own Private Idaho is one of my favorite movies of all time.
A perfect film.
Great filmmaker.
It's
but that the balls, I mean, I can see him being like, I want to remake Psycho, but for him to be like, I'm going to do all of the Hitchcock shots, shot for shot. I'm just going to remake his movie with Vince fucking Vaughn. What's your problem?
and God, and like Anthony Perkins, even in those bad Psycho sequels, I don't know if anyone's ever seen them. He still eats those movies up when he starts directing them on his own, and he's just making his own wackadoo movies. There's still something there.
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn is not Anthony Perkins, and I know that's like a simple statement, and everyone should understand the guy from Swingers is not Anthony Perkins.
Vince Vaughn is a charisma void.
He is, and I can't believe we tried. Like, we tried
hard for like 15 years.
And I'm upset with that we gave him Wedding Crashers. But anyways, that's a horror movie, not a remake. That Wedding Crashers movie is not good. So yes, now let's shift up. I think we've kind of touched a lot of bad ones. Is there defining good ones? Like when you think of a good horror remake, this pops to mind. I know there's one that everyone kind of talks about, and I actually don't know your feelings on it. I'll kind of kick it off. The Thing. How do we feel about John Carpenter's The Thing?
I love The Thing. Like, how could I not? Like, it might get blown a little too much, but
just a little bit, I think.
It's brilliant, though. Like, the effects work in that is so unsettling and so well done.
And Kurt Russell.
Honestly, anything with Kurt Russell is in my like top 100 movies, including 3,000 Miles to Graceland. Like, so
Overboard, top-notch movie.
Captain Ron, all about it.
And I mean, that's the power of him. I mean, John Carpenter and Kurt Russell in the 80s is a force. And I really think The Thing, though, is, I mean, that cast in general, though, is, I think they have Keith David in that. Oh, God, what's the man who just passed away? The diabetes guy, and I hate that I always forget his name.
Wilford Brimley.
Yeah.
He is so good in that movie. He has one of my favorite cuts when they cut back to him with a noose just hanging in the background.
Yeah.
And it's just this dark comedy, but again, Carpenter gets it. I mean, They Live is not a remake, but again, Carpenter gets what I need. Halloween, I think, is his only movie that's not funny at all. I think the original Halloween is a pretty just straight up thriller horror film. But his dark comedy in The Thing is just so good. And a lot of people, I think we know it's a remake, but a lot of people don't know about The Thing from Another World, a 1950s film that, I mean, the monster was just a big old guy who just walked. He was like very Frankenstein-y kind of thing. He was an alien, but like the alien just wasn't what that gross thing was. Now
you mentioned that original one has its virtues, but it's superseded.
Now you mentioned, I believe it's the 2011 remake of that as well. It's a prequel, to be honest.
It's a prequel, yes, because it technically ends with the dog running off. That is the thing that
kicks it all off.
Yeah. But yeah, I like that one a lot. The Joel Edgerton, I don't remember who the hell else was in it. It was a blur. I watched it the once.
There's a girl that everyone really likes in it. Oh God, Mary Elizabeth Winstead's in it.
Yes. I don't know why I didn't remember that.
I was like, God, literally everyone likes this girl. Like,
yes.
I was like,
she's likable. And that was her era too, because she had done the original Halloween, she'd done Death Proof, that Live Free or Die Hard. She was getting a lot of work. Scott Pilgrim was right around then. I enjoyed that. I think a lot of people, I heard a lot of bitching about it, and I just did not feel a negative way.
It's because they replaced the practical effects with CG, which I've seen behind the scenes footage. There is practical effects. The studio it's 2011. We all love CGI. The studio meddled with that one very bad, because like there is practical effects on set for that film, which feels very much close to the Carpenter film.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, that's all that original movie is the practical effects. Like, I think if it wasn't as striking,
it's the tension. But yeah, the practical effects are what really makes it stick in your mind. But like, I mean, I didn't like the CG on it. That was not the best. But I think if they had come at it and made it a full remake, that would have been very questionable. But that they made it the prequel and weren't trying to step all over the Carpenter one, I think it worked.
Yeah.
And I had a good time with it.
Gerald, do you have anyone to kind of close us out with, like one that just stands like a remake you will watch? Because I have one as well to close us out, and I wonder if it's us close to each other.
All right, so I really hate to admit this because there's multiple reasons, and as soon as I say the title, you'll understand why I hate to admit this. But
Uh-oh. I think I know which one.
Dawn of the Dead.
Oh no, you're in good company here. Like,
Yeah.
me and EJ have talked about this. That is the best thing Zack Snyder has ever done.
Yeah.
Like, I like his Dawn of the Dead remake. Sorry, EJ.
Calm down. Calm down.
No, the only thing I would say against that is James Gunn wrote the script, so not a big fan of that. And you could tell with the comedy sometimes that Ty Burrell character feels like a James Gunn character. But yes, Gerald, you are very right. This movie, I mean, I just rewatched it recently because it's on Peacock. I don't know. I tried Peacock. Sorry. I feel like I'm ashamed of myself. It was free, whatever.
You should be.
That's free. It's not CBS All Access.
Yes. But Dawn of the Dead was on there, and that intro is so good with that little girl and all of that. That is a cold open. That is, and I really think that is how you open a film. And just when we get to the mall with Mekhi Phifer, who I forgot was in that movie completely.
Who the world forgot about. I don't know what happened to him.
But yeah, Gerald, what do you like about it? Why does that stand out? Especially because it's a Zack Snyder movie and it's a remake of a zombie movie and George Romero.
Yeah. It's, I mean, and you don't touch George Romero. This is kind of known, but
what?
To be able to,
like Tom Savini already redid the first one. What are we talking
in
about?
color and in the 90s.
Yeah.
But Tony Todd's in that one, so yeah.
I don't hate that thing. Anyway.
No, just overall, yeah, again, you've got the combination of horror and humor, which I absolutely adore in my films. You have these, and they do it to a really good extent where they will like pull you out of it. They will make you forget that it's a horror film at times. And then next thing you know, zombie baby running across the room. And that unto itself is like terrifying, yet so hilariously dumb at the same time that you're just like, you know what? I'm all in on this. Just take me where you want to go. I'm here for it. And the fact that it's something that on paper, you feel like it's in the Pantheon. You feel like this, it shouldn't be done. And then they go and do it in such a way where you're like, you know what? Yeah, again, you deserve to exist. I'm okay with this.
Yeah, that's all we could ask for from a remake is good. You have a reason to be here.
Yeah. You're not a shot for shot remake. Unless, of course, that shot for shot remake is to put it into English because Americans can't read. Let me in.
But yeah, I mean that one's part of the trinity that really brought the zombie stuff back between Resident Evil, 28 Days Later, and Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. That really, really made my teenage years unbearable. But,
and then Shaun of the Dead only a couple years after that too. So
yeah,
that was the full. I mean, I can't believe Walking Dead was so late. Thinking about how early in the 2000s all of those movies were.
Look, I was into the zombie stuff as a teenager. I'm not gonna lie, but how was the rest of the world not tired of it by the time Walking Dead happened? Because
how is it only getting canceled today when we're filming?
Yeah, that's right.
Like, that's when Walking Dead
finally.
Don't worry, there's 84 spinoffs coming off.
Sure. Great.
Yes. So to kind of close mine out, I have, you set me up very well with Zack Snyder because I'm going to go to an equally controversial director. Rob Zombie's Halloween. I don't know how Alan feels about this movie because I don't know how you feel about Rob Zombie other than I hope you like him because he's nice.
Look, I love Dragula.
And the world does too.
Big, like, I've always just called Rob Zombie, Rob Zombie White Zombie. That's American Motorhead. It's the same fucking song over and over again, but you don't mind it because it rocks.
I mean, Living Dead Girl at the beginning of Bride of Chucky was like,
oh yeah,
1999 EJ, like burned in my head how much I love that beginning of that movie. But how do you feel about him? I kind of like him as a filmmaker. He has a style.
I think he has a style. I will certainly agree with that. I like him. You know, I'm not a huge, as much as I referenced that I enjoy Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I don't quite enjoy his constant need to feel like he's got to remake it with every movie. but I like his Halloween. I actually very much enjoy his Halloween, and Halloween, those are my favorite slasher movies. So I never saw his Halloween 2. That's another case of didn't rush out to see something, and then everybody told me not to, so I didn't.
It is the most Rob Zombie movie to exist other than House of a Thousand Corpses. Like, that is definitely them going, oh, I can make my Halloween I want to, and it's a full-on Rob Zombie music video, which I don't mind. It is just, what is your wife doing in a white dress with a horse? What does this mean? Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Maybe I'll get around to it just for the batshit craziness of it. But his first one, I think, I mean, Michael Myers, as you know, he's kind of a Darth Vader in the original one. Like, you get a little bit of background on him, but largely they don't go into his psychology. And I enjoyed the way that they went into that. I enjoyed the way that they had the old creepy kid. What's his name?
Oh, Dag Farrig. Yeah.
Yeah.
He follows my YouTube channel, so he'll probably see this.
But I thought he was great and terrifying in it.
So
and
creepy.
if you are watching this, I love you in Hancock.
He's really good in that movie too. I mean, when he beat up that spy kid with a branch, I was like, yes, this is all I've wanted.
But yeah, no, I like that. Of course, throw Malcolm McDowell in anything and I'll watch it. Oh, speaking of, one I missed, Cat People. Love Cat People.
My God. The only podcast that you can go, Malcolm McDowell, Cat People.
Don't have a lot to say about it, but that's a good horror remake.
No, and I definitely agree with a lot of what you said. I also think it's one of Sherry Moon Zombie's better acting performances too. I think I feel for her. I feel like she genuinely lost everything, and I don't hate her as an actress either. She definitely has a role. I think she's fine in that movie, and I mean William Forsythe in that movie. Just that whole cast. Janie Trejo is a very sympathetic character, and I feel so bad when Michael kills him. Like, you get angry at Michael in the movie, and then Tyler Mane as Michael Myers,
just hulking Michael Myers,
is terrifying. That one scene when we see him aged up the first time, and you're like, he is Sabretooth from X-Men big. Oh my God.
It's one of those things where people tell me what they don't like about it. I'm just like, yeah, okay, I don't have an argument, but it doesn't bother me, you know. The things that you hate don't bother me.
It's his hellbelly trash kind of thing. That's his thing. And I don't want to live in a Rob Zombie household, but like I like visiting them in movies. I'm like, what are the Fireflies? What's your like Strode's doing? I also like, I think they did well with like their Laurie Strode. It's not Jamie Lee Curtis, obviously. She was fine. Scout Taylor Compton, I believe her name is. And Danielle Harris is in that as well, which we love seeing Danielle Harris get her time to shine other than being little Jamie Lloyd. We get to see her naked because Rob Zombie's a weirdo. That was my only thing. I mean, she's a great girl too. She's in the Hatchet movies, which recommendation, we're talking about slashers. Watch Hatchet 2. She's in it. She's really good. So yeah, I want to wrap this up with you guys by saying thank you for jumping in to a very strange category of some very strange horror remakes, good and bad. There's been a lot of them. Any final words for you guys?
I'm just real messed up right now because I completely mixed up that girl that was Laurie Strode with what's her name that we just talked about earlier.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah.
Similar energy, similar time period too.
Yep. Sorry, that's what that's what I had to look up. I was like, how did I mix that up? But in fairness, I haven't seen that movie in 13 years at this point, and that was a very Mary Elizabeth Winstead heavy time period.
Yep.
But
we're better for it though.
Yeah, of course we are.
I got her. She was one of the best parts of Birds of Prey. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's everything that I wanted to touch on, except maybe the Blob from the 80s. That was cool.
Oh, I remember when
Don't
Rob
have
Zombie
a paragraph on it, but
he was supposed to remake the Blob, and I was so excited for that.
Yeah.
I really wanted to see what the hell he could do.
You know what? I'm into that. I'm into Rob Zombie being forced to make a movie that isn't about white trash. I mean, I'm sure you could turn the Blob into about something about white trash. I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to attack a trailer park.
Yeah.
It's just Twister, but with a blob this time.
All right. Well, I'm not as into that anymore.
Oh, man. Now I want to watch Twister. Anyways. All right. Thank you, Gerald. I'm so glad you got to join me this time as well. I picked a category perfect for you.
I'm glad I got to be here. I want to do more of these with y'all. This was a good time.
Yeah.
All right. I think I have one cooking up that we can get into. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was it for Flickering Myth TV. I'm EJ Marino. So make sure you guys comment down below, subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and let's talk about horror remakes down below.